Professor Hartmut Winkler, University of Johannesburg Professor of Physics and commentator on South African energy, joins us now for more. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Professor. So this question arising earlier on in the year when the President made the announcement on the appointment of Dr. Johannesburg Ramokgopa. But there are those who say he has been powerless from the beginning, that a mandate to implement reform means nothing if you're not empowered to do so. And this arising recently because we understand from some reports that he's been complaining about a lack of access. Is there a lack of political will, or is it how the portfolio itself is structured? As many have said, there has been an overlap.
Yes, good evening. There certainly is an overlap, and I think we could see that this sort of situation was going to arise. Before that, there was an overlap between the tasks of Ministers Mantashe and Gordon about who exactly is responsible for what in Eskom, and the President's solution was to bring in yet another person and task them with fixing electricity. Johannesburg Ramokgopa has got more powers now than what he started off with. When he first started, he hardly had any staff even to assist him and so on. So the situation is certainly better now. But there's two crucial aspects, and both have been shown up in the last couple of months that I think he would probably like to get a better handle on. The one thing is the South African electricity plan. Now that at the moment is a function of Minister Mantashe's department, and that's been delayed several times. The integrated resource plan for electricity is supposed to be renewed every 2 years. The one we're currently working on was finalized in 2019, so it's already 2 years overdue. And even this year, there have been several times when we've been told, yes, it's going to be put out for public comment, and that hasn't happened. So we're still waiting for it to come out. The latest date now is whenever the cabinet meets again. Then there's first of all going to have to be some sort of public participation and discussion, and I think there will be a lot of debate about this. I cannot imagine that everybody will be happy with what is going to be proposed there. The minister himself is known to be quite keen on technologies such as more coal and nuclear, whereas other people would be arguing that they should be focused on renewables rather than those technologies. So that's on the Minister Mantashe's side. On Minister Gordon's side, he's responsible for approving the appointments such as the new CEO of Eskom. And he didn't, for whatever reason, he didn't accept the recommendation of the board. And told them to come back with more names. Now, okay, he might be technically right on that, but he rather took his time over that. If he'd immediately gone and back to them and said, look, I need to make this proper, I need a couple of more names, give me those, and I think it would have been handled better. And I think that might be what Minister Ramokgopa is referring to. And at the same time, it's this whole question of responsibility, it's talking about people wanting to control Eskom is already, I would have thought that that's the kind of thing where everybody would be shifting responsibility to somebody else. Not that people would be claiming responsibility for these things. And nobody can really fix Eskom in any short time. So whoever is saddled with Eskom is going to have to face a lot of criticism, not just now, but over the next coming of years, because that's how long it's going to take to fix Eskom. So I would have thought that people would not really want to be saddled with Eskom, but at the same time, if you are expected to deliver, then you must at least have some sort of a measure of making input there, and I think that's maybe what's lacking.
Some critics who have been critical of Minister Gwede Mantashe and Pravin Gordhan have been cynical enough to say the reason for this is because they want to have control over their own fiefdoms. Some even have gone as far as saying when both ministers speak with one voice, one should be wary that means trouble. So in January, while addressing the ANC's Free State Elective Conference, Minister Mantashe said there was a calculated plan to make sure that the Energy Department is removed from his custodianship. He complained that there'd been internal discussions about splitting the department into two entities, one which would handle mineral resources and one overseeing energy. So where we are, I'm just trying to understand. Minister Ramokgopa, we're told, met President Ramaphosa 2 weeks ago to detail the systemic and structural rot at Eskom. Does this mean that the lack of political will actually lies with the presidency of not taking decisive action?
Well, I can see what he's trying to do. Minister Mantashe is one of his strongest and most important allies within the ANC. As such, he doesn't want to alienate him. At the same time, I think he does realize that Minister Mantashe's current position is detrimental to solving the power crisis for whatever reason, and I really don't believe that this reason is valid. But Minister Mantashe seems to believe there are such things as clean coal, and that Eskom's coal power stations can simply be fixed. Like, you know, when you call an electrician because you've got a fault at your house, you expect them to come in, they'll fix it, and it's all sorted. It's really not as simple as that. And if anybody's been telling this to Minister Mantashe, then I think they've been misleading him quite badly. I don't believe anybody's going to solve Eskom's problems. And so, in a sense, I don't really know why Minister Mantashe is hanging on to this as strongly as he is, because mineral affairs and energy used to be two separate departments. They're only brought together, well, in the last few years at some point. So, splitting them again would in some ways, be justifiable. Certainly, if you've already got an electricity minister around.
And we've seen that those who say the electricity minister is powerless, because also one of the most important things is his lack of access to the Eskom board, because they ultimately are accountable to Minister Pravin Gordhan. But there's also what occurred earlier on in the year where Minister Ramokgopa, I believe during a cabinet meeting, had no allies, because both ministers agreed that he should rather focus on his own portfolio and that he should take his proposals to extend the life of Eskom's coal-fired power stations to the National Energy Crisis Committee. So ultimately, what should happen to end the country's electricity crisis beyond the bickering? Because even Scopa weighed in on this and said all of this points to fruitless and wasteful expenditure having this ministry which doesn't have support and power and access. Yes.
In my opinion, Minister Ramokgopa has been one of the better ministers so far. As much as he might not have direct access to the Eskom board, he has been quite active in visiting the sites, and even though he's not on a personal level able to sort things out, at least he seems to have a very good understanding about the technical issues and the technical challenges at Eskom. But the solution ultimately lies in a good plan going forward. And that's why it's so important to get this new integrated resource plan out and commented, so that everybody can just see what exactly are the options, how expensive are the various options, what are the implications of the various options, and then make a choice accordingly. And once the country has decided that this is what we're going to do over the next few years, bearing in mind that this plan will again have to be updated in 2 years from now. But at least if we have this roadmap now, the one we're working from at the moment is, I'm afraid, completely outdated, and we've also not been sticking to it. There are some things which have already fallen by the wayside. There's things which are 2 years late and haven't been acted upon. But we just simply need to be very clear about where we're going and what the pros and cons are. And also to realize that there isn't going to be a quick fix to the situation. I think that will make the situation much more palatable to the public as well, once everybody accepts that, but also knowing that we are moving in the right direction. And in the last few months, things have been rather positive, as much as people are even Minister Ramokgopa is saying that he's very disappointed that load shedding seems to have gone up again. It's still lower than what I would have expected it to be 6 months ago. It's only to be expected, given the age of the power stations, that they're going to break down every now and then. So the breakdowns we've had in the last week is nothing that couldn't have been predicted. And this is going to continue as well. Just like if you're driving an old car, it's going to break down a lot. And this is just a situation we're facing. And the fact that we only are at stage 3 rather than about stage 4 or even 5 right now is positive news. I think we have now, it looks like we've bottomed out, provided we stick to this scheme. We could be out of load shedding, I would say, in 5 years, but we shouldn't be under any illusions that this is going to happen quicker than that.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts, Professor Hartmut Winkler, University of Johannesburg Professor of Physics and commentator on South Africa's energy crisis.